on the call and Anna that's watching. Hi, Jean. All right, good. I think we should be good.
There you go. Yep.
All right. You there, Anna?
Yeah.
Safanova? Okay. All right. All right. Let's get started. I don't know. It looked like, is it going on your, are you guys streaming?
We're good, Jay. Go ahead.
All right. Hey, everyone. You guys, if it's first time tuning in, my name's Jay Garrett, and I'm here. I'm the co-owner of NJ Realty Pros with Alan Hack, who's not here, and Anna Safanova, who is here. And we're here with a special guest and repeat guest now, Chris Whalen, who is a phenomenal accountant who is very, very well versed on everything that's going on for relief options for business owners and independent contractors. So we're gonna keep this close to a half hour. We're gonna try to finish up by 11:45. We're gonna have Q&A. So type your questions in the chat box. If we don't get to them immediately, we will get to them. And we're gonna just cut to the chase and get started because we have a lot to cover in a little bit of time. So I'm gonna let Chris get started.
Good morning, everybody. I'll share my screen in a second. Thanks for having me. Again, the idea today is to dispel a lot of myths, to relieve a lot of anxiety, but also to manage everyone's expectations about where they should be with unemployment, what's happening with these different loans, and are you behind or you're not behind? So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and get started. All right, that looks good, guys?
Yeah, we can see that.
Yep.
All right, great. All right, so we're going to be talking about independent contractors or business owners, coronavirus loans, grants, free money, tax implications, and stimulus details. Please take a deep breath. I know all this could be overwhelming, but we have to take our time and be patient. A lot of these systems are being created as we speak, so we have to give it a little bit of time. The money is not running out, and there's no rush right now. The most important thing is to get your paperwork together, applications in, and make sure they're in good order. That's the important thing. Don't rush anything until we have all our supporting documents. When I'm done today, hopefully you're going to have a better understanding to know where you should be. And so you can give yourself an action plan to get everything done. So a little marketing here. I'm a full service CPA firm, of course. Anything that a CPA can do that you can think of, we will do. We specialize heavily in businesses and high net worth individuals, and we service the entire country. Of course, my motto is, if we aren't working for you, then you aren't working at your best. You're almost there, Jason and Anna. You're almost 100%, but you need to hire me to get to that highest level, right? So get all my posts in your inbox, subscribe to my blog, send an email to me at chriswhalencpa@gmail.com and put blog subscription in the subject, and I'll make sure that that you get on my list. Here's my blog page, though. Tons of fantastic coronavirus related and other information. You should be looking at that all the time. But if you subscribe, you'll get everything in your inbox before everybody else does.
And it's actually a fantastic page. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Chris. Great informative stuff, videos, very up to date. It's not just the regular CPA, and he's following actually rules and regulations, guidelines, changes. It's very, very important now.
So the Q&A, everyone, you have questions, give a message in the chat if you can, but I often try to say that I'm going to give you so much A that there's very little Q, right? So overview, most independent contractors should apply for all three of these: the PPP, the SBA EIDL, as we've been calling it, and unemployment. Now, you can only take one of the PPP or the unemployment. A lot of people don't know that. Very important point. So you take the higher benefit. So you want to apply for both of them and analyze what gives you the greater benefit. Now, even with current income, that's a big question. I'm a real estate agent. I'm having closings. Yes, that doesn't apply to the federal unemployment benefits necessarily. So it's important. No matter what, even if you have current closings today, you want to apply for all three of these and see what you get. Remember, these are the steps. You get all your applications in, you wait for responses from the agencies. Now they're going to want additional information, and then you receive the funds. So I ask everyone, as soon as you're approved and receive funding on any of these three programs, be sure to call me or email me I want to know your timeline because I'm keeping statistics. Okay. So Anna applied for PPP, let's say on the 15th of last month. Okay. She got her money today. And what was the bank? Those are very important things. Please share it with me. I'm giving a lot of information for free, but I need it back because I'm sort of a clearinghouse for a lot of these statistics to tell people what their expectations should be. Does that make sense? All right.
Absolutely.
Hope so. So there's no rush. These programs will be funded, the EIDL through September 30th. That's the promise. And PPP and unemployment through December 31st. So that's the promise, to keep the funding coming as long as there's applications through those dates. That's still the current promise from the government. Now, there are many unknowns with these programs, and I know that causes anxiety, but for example, how do they calculate the EIDL loan amounts? If you look at the application for the economic injury disaster loan, there is no place to put a loan amount, and that confuses people, and they think it's incomplete. It's not. They're going to take that application and some basic info, eventually get back to us, and then calculate a loan amount based on other support. When is the money coming? We're not sure. How much extra federal unemployment will we receive? That's a very important point here for sole proprietors and self-employed people. And I have to discuss that. I discuss it in a moment in that section. How exactly do we get forgiven? Right? So we're going to get this money from the PPP. We want it to be forgiven money. And how do we get that forgiven so we don't pay tax on it? And please be patient. The kinks are being worked out. What I'm telling everybody is, take your current internet-related instantaneous results that we get for the past 25 years and multiply that by 30. And that should be your expectation. Everyone is so spoiled by hitting a button, getting a result. This is more like the Pony Express is going from Denver to San Francisco, and we're waiting for the horse. So you got to keep looking over the horizon, but that's the level we're at right now. So remember, these applications are very short. So that means what? That we're going to need to give more information eventually. So, but the SBA and state unemployment agencies most likely will be requesting many supporting documents. So don't be surprised if even after they contact you for the unemployment, for example, or the SBA EIDL, that it's going to take longer than you think. If everyone's waiting, they say, great, I have an SBA EIDL confirmation number and I'm going to get my money. No, there's going to be someone looking for more information. An important point here, people that are used to dealing with SBA in the past know they're onerous with underwriting, especially with credit rating. But remember, like the unemployment, this is a federal program going through the SBA system. So the underwriting criteria is much less severe. So please apply. You don't have to apply for all of them, though. Only ones you feel apply to you. A good note here, this is a frequently asked question. If you have an IRS installment plan that's in good standing, meaning you owe the IRS money, but you're paying a plan in good standing, this should not impact your funds, meaning they should not garnish that. People are worried about, oh, it's federal money. They're going to grab it like they do my refund if I owe money. That should not be the case, except if you have outstanding child support where there's a garnishment or a levy, they're going to take that most likely. I'm not saying not to apply for things, but if you're in arrears for child support and there's some kind of lien or levy, they might take some or all of the money you're going to get. All right. Very important point here. If you're a sole proprietor, you are your business name. You are your boss. So on all these applications, do not put anybody that gives you a 1099 as your boss or employer, because they're not your employer. You are. And use your social security number for federal ID. This is for all of this. The PPP, the SBA EIDL, and unemployment. This is all that should appear in terms of your employer, technical employer, or the ID number for that employer. Do not use who pays you on a 1099. A lot of realtors get paid one 1099 for, say, Weichert. They've been putting Weichert down. That's not true. Weichert is not your boss. You're your boss. Stimulus checks. These will be sent automatically if you filed an 18 or 19 return. $1,200 for each adult, $500 for dependents under 17. Now, dependents over 16 get nothing. I know this seems unfair. Do not barrage me with questions. I know your 22-year-old is a vital part of your family and a dependent, but they're not getting any stimulus. That's all I can say about it. Here are some income limits. It's not for everyone. So, for example, if you're single, you make over $75,000, you're going to be phased out eventually. Same thing with head of household. Look at those limits. If you're well above those, within those statuses, you might get zero or no stimulus. The PPP. Now, this is a 73% forgivable loan, and this is brand new. I just did this morning. 73% forgivable loan if used to replace your earnings from your Schedule C. How much? Well, how do we calculate your PPP amount? You take your net Schedule C, which is line 31, plus any payroll if you paid it. A lot of you don't. So let's say your net Schedule C divided by 12 times 2.5. Okay, this is based on your 2019 Schedule C. Now, no, you can't use a 2018 Schedule C. You can't use an estimated 2019 Schedule C. You need to have a real Schedule C done, not your entire return, but this has to match what you're going to file for 2019 when all's said and done, or else when they do auditing later, it's going to negate your loan because your numbers don't match. So no, everyone, you cannot use an estimated 2019 Schedule C or your 18 numbers, okay? This is applied through any SBA lender, and the applications are available online or through a portal usually, and you don't need to be a full year in business. It's important. A lot of, like Bank of America was terrible that they said if you're a sole proprietor with only a checking account in your personal name, even though you use it for a business use, it's going to not be counted as a business and they're not giving you a loan. So we need to find other banks. There's other banks out there. I'm continually trying to find them to post, but call your bank directly. This is where the PPP is done, and find out how they're doing it. And if they say they're not doing it, or they say you're not a real business because you only have a business account in your personal name, fire that bank and find a new one. Valley National has been fantastic, by the way. So here's an example. So we have an independent contractor, net Schedule C, $85,000. Your forgivable loan request is $17,708, which is $85,000 divided by 12 times 2.5, as I just mentioned. Now, when you do this application for the PPP, you want to enter zero cost of goods sold on the application. As I said before, you can't get both the PPP or the unemployment, but you must calculate which is better and take the larger number. That's the smart thing to do. Now, PPP has limited forgiveness. This is very, very important. Everyone pay attention if you get this loan. For sole proprietors and independent contractors, only 73.85% of that loan is forgivable. And here's my example. So let's take a minute and talk about it. So we have our $85,000. That's our continuing example. We know that our loan amount is $17,708, but the forgivable portion is based on that same net Schedule C number divided by 52 weeks times 8 weeks. So it gives you a weekly average times 8. So you see that there's a non-forgivable portion of $4,631. Okay, so this is important to remember that if you do get the full $17,708 in this example, so at $13,077 should be fully forgivable, not taxable to you, free money, but the $4,631 would probably need to be paid back eventually. So what I'm saying is be careful with that $4,600, move it to a separate account, keep it there. And eventually when they start asking to be paid back, you can just give that amount back just to be safe. So that $13,000 from what I see right now in our example here is money that's free for you under this example. Okay, very important. There's a very important slide. Now, 75% supposed to be used for payroll. This is an important point, or net Schedule C replacement. So in this example, we have a net Schedule C replacement, and we know what that is. If you do have payroll, you need to use the PPP for 75% of payroll within 8 weeks of when you get the money. All right. So if you're a business owner where you have payroll and you have a $100,000 PPP, you need to spend $75,000 of that on payroll within 8 weeks of when that money gets funded. Very important point. Now, funds available after 75% can be used for rent, utilities, and mortgage. So in my example I just gave, I could have a $100,000 PPP. I can spend $75,000 on payroll in 8 weeks, and I have $25,000 to be used for rent, utilities, and mortgage interest. So you can use part of the PPP for other things, very specific we see at the bottom of the screen, right? But we have to use the majority for payroll as shown there. All right, the SBA EIDL. Now, this is the free $10,000 you've been hearing about, but there's a big catch. This is based on $1,000 for each full-time employee you had before the quarantine. So a sole proprietor without employees would technically only be eligible for $1,000 free. There is no obligation to repay that $1,000, and the loan amounts, as I said before, are decided after applying. Let me go back. Remember, these are netted against each other, which I'll get to. So if you did get the $1,000 for the SBA EIDL and you did get the 17,708 for the PPP, that the $1,000 is not forgivable. It's the larger of the two. Very important point. I don't want people to think both of those are forgivable because they're not. All right, so you want to apply here, and I'm checking every day to see if it's available because they just got new money funded. Let's see. Give me one moment. And yeah, so it's not available yet. The EIDL is not re-available again, but don't be concerned. It's only temporarily not accepting apps, but they should be soon. Remember, as I told Jason, the SBA has taken in 14 years of applications in 14 days. Very important to remember that. Imagine you had your work and you suddenly had 100 times the work. So it's going to be back on. Be patient. Check back with my blog. Once this is back up, I'll announce it on my blog, so it saves you time. Remember, as I just said a minute ago, that the free grant or advance for the EIDL has to be netted against the forgivable loan request. So in this case, the forgivable loan can only be 7,708. Right. So remember, the free money can exceed the PPP forgivable loan request. So in this case, your forgivable amount could be 17,708, but less that non-forgivable portion we went over. Now, unemployment, very important, everyone. Everyone's freaking out about unemployment. The federal government is using the state unemployment systems, right, to get you the money. So business owners who don't have W-2 are not receiving state unemployment benefits at all. States are still programming this linkage to the federal PUA, it's called. But you want to get to the point where you are denied and then wait. So here, we have pandemic unemployment assistance coming from the federal government. They're simply using the state unemployment system as a vehicle or conduit to get you the money. So right now, you're dealing with all of the variables and programming of state unemployment, which we don't qualify for. So remember, if you're getting weird emails, it's saying you don't have benefits, you don't. So that's good. You want to get to the point where you're denied. Remember, use your name and your social as your business and trade name and your federal ID when you do this. And I'm telling people, I'll show you. Now, everyone thinks we're going to get $600 for 13 weeks. We don't know. The $600 is for full-time employees who had a W-2, who were laid off fully and got unemployment. They should be getting $600 a week on top of that already. But for us, self-employed people, we're not sure. Again, what is it going to be based on? Your net Schedule C? We're not sure. So amounts will vary. So I want to manage your expectations. When someone gets $599, I don't want them to freak out and think they're being gypped, because that's not the case. When applying, we went over this already, but important point here, I'm telling everyone to act as if you were terminated on February 28th. Any sole proprietor without W-2s of their own or that they're giving, use of February 28th. Remember, you can't do both, the PPP and unemployment, but apply for both, right? And state systems may deny you at first, and that's good, because Jersey is almost at a point where they're making this linkage to a federal portal. Then that's going to be a whole new world, Wild West of what's going on. So even if you have current self-employment income, apply for unemployment. Right? If asked by the unemployment system to verify weekly earnings, put 0 earned, everybody. Now, there is New Jersey guidance for sole proprietors found in my blog. This is a blog post. If you went to my blog, you'll see this down the page. Click on it. And this is a PDF that Jersey just put out that gives some guidance exactly for what I'm talking about. They finally put it out. Here's my blog page. While you're listening now, you can go check it out if you want. And remember, it's all still a work in progress. Remember, it's the Pony Express. We're looking over the eastern horizon for the horse to come from Denver to San Francisco, and we don't see the dirt flying up yet, so we have to wait. Here's something separate. I'm almost done. That they've given a special relief of the 10% penalty for premature pension and IRA withdrawals up to $100,000. So this is good for people. If you want to take out that money, you still have to pay your ordinary tax, but you don't pay the 10% penalty. So if you wanted to move some money, if you don't mind paying the tax on it, but you've been delaying that because you want to avoid the 10% penalty, well, you can do it now, okay? Most important slide, if your current CPA or tax preparer hasn't proactively been in touch with you about this, I urge you to find a new one as soon as possible, and I know a good one. All right?
Thanks for sharing that. That's great.
All right, so here's my information. That's my blog page. And that's my contact info. I'm going to unshare my screen. Let me know if there's any questions out there.
Yeah, one person did. Let's see. We have Brandon asked, what are considered utilities exactly? I think that was in regards to the PPP.
Well, any of your gas, I am not considering it waste removal. So gas, electric, and natural gas, and gas and electric, your normal utilities right now.
Water, sewer, I guess too, if you have that as well.
I would
Oh.
say I haven't gotten confirmation on that. I would say you could possibly include it, but not garbage removal. Some people think of that as a utility, and I usually don't.
Okay.
And there is another question if you want to read that, Jay. If I get unemployment from my full-time job, that's from Atlanta. I don't know how to add real estate. So if you are fully employed somewhere else, were employed, and you get unemployment already, can they apply for PPP if they part-time or?
Well, if they're if they're already getting the federal unemployment addition, then they're getting the max they can get.
No, I think they're already getting the state unemployment.
Right. So they should be, if they'll eventually get, if they're in the state unemployment system. So this is an employee, former employee that was a W-2 that applied for unemployment. Let's ignore the fact that they're a sole proprietor right now. So if they're in the system and they're getting full benefits as a former employee, they should eventually get the $600 a week or some part of that eventually. And that would mean that they're getting the max they can get. There's no need to do the sole proprietor application.
Okay. And what happens if you receive a paycheck in between? So hypothetically, let's say you're on unemployment or you get PPP or you get anything really in between, you get in paychecks per se. You still
Well, if you're a W-2 person, so let's separate it. If you're a W-2 person who's on unemployment and you have to follow those normal rules. So if you got a job, if you got some pay, you got some part-time work, in your weekly benefits area, when you go to verify that, right, weekly earnings or not, you have to tell them that. So ignore the fact that you're a sole proprietor in that case. If you are an employee that's in the unemployment system as an employee, you want to then address it that way. So you would have to go and tell them you got some work and how much you made, because that's going to reduce your benefit as it should.
That's W-2.
Right.
Okay. What about 1099?
Now, 1099, I'm saying put 0 now because we don't even have direction on that, because I don't think for the federal portion, I don't think that matters, right? So let's split this in half. Your state unemployment number that you could get, in our last example with the W-2 person, that's reliant on your current earnings or not, right? Ongoing. But the federal, I don't think there's nothing to do with that. I don't think that. So let's take the federal unemployment. Let's remember, like I said earlier, the state unemployment rules don't apply to the federal portion. And if you're a PPP person, a sole proprietor, that's what you're going for. So if you're, again, we aren't even in the federal system yet. It hasn't even asked us that question. So if you're a sole proprietor, as I said before, that's not getting state benefits yet because you don't deserve them. If it asks you for weekly earnings, put 0. Mm-hmm. Then when we get to the federal system for us, then we're going to see what to do. But for now, put 0. But if you are a W-2 person, put it in. You have to put that in if you're making other W-2 money now, because it might affect your state unemployment portion, maybe not affect your federal 600. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And for people who already applied, and let's say they made a mistake, as I know you said, put your social security, put your name because you're self-employed. Now, anybody who made a mistake, and per se, again, if you're in real estate and you put, let's say, brokerage that you're working for, if there is a mistake in place, should you reapply? What should you do with that?
No, don't go scrambling. Don't worry. You have a record in there already that you've applied for unemployment. This is very common. So it's sitting there. You've probably been denied because when you put white gird or you put, landscape, whatever you put down, our contractor's name and ID number, it's going to deny you. So you're good. So you're at a point where you're denied, and you should be because you didn't have wages with them. So let's wait to see. And again, follow my blog. As soon as the state's ready to grab these records and bring them forward, that's going to be a whole nother webinar on what, because we don't have, I don't have the machinery that I've seen, what's going to be the spec. So that person's in good shape, the best shape you can be. It's the best denial you can have.
And does that go for PPP? Like, say there was a sole proprietor that accidentally used his business number, his EIN instead of his SOC, because you
Yeah,
said
exactly. It's another company. So eventually we should have the facility to change that. So I'm
Mhm.
expecting that once we get up in the system, it's going to allow us to go in and change things or give us some kind of exception report. Hey, Chris, you put down Joe Smith, CPA you worked for, but you're an independent person. That doesn't make sense. Can you change it? But they also might take automatically because you do put your individual name and your social on these applications. So we should have the facility. I don't want everyone to know they should allow us to change things. It doesn't mean that if you made this mistake, you're out of the system. That doesn't mean that at all. We just have to wait. Again, it's a long time. It's going to take a while, and it could be a week. It could be 4 weeks.
yeah, I mean, and it's taking there, like you said when before we started the call, how many years worth of loans and how quick was it that
They took in 14 years worth of loans in 14 days.
yeah. So and I just as an example, I'm doing a PPP. I missed 2 initials. I submitted to the bank on the 9th. I didn't something that took me 4 minutes to fix. I didn't get a call to the 16th, but that's how many they got before they got to mine. I understand, So, just
Right.
for
And so right now, for example, we say that Pelosi finally approved the new money and that, well, wait a second. Why is the EIDL application not up yet? Well, maybe they just need to take a break and process what they've gotten already. So I follow my blog. I'm checking it multiple times per day. As soon as it's open again for the SBA EIDL, I'm going. That's why it's important. Go to my website, everybody, and you'll see you'll be able to click contact or go to one of my blog posts. I have all of them have. If you want to subscribe to my blog, click here, put in your email. You'll automatically be in my system that moment, and you'll get every blog post I do from now on.
Awesome. And we have some questions, I guess, on the live feed here. I received my PPP and my EIDL. Can you say again which one has to be repaid? Question mark. And it was EIDL just 1K.
All right. So the
So what has to be
EIDL, right? So they
repaid?
got 1K of EIDL is what they got, correct?
Yes, I think that's what she meant.
Okay, good. So this is important so you didn't get your loan yet. So you got a grant. So this is how it works. The EIDL wants to give you up to $10,000 of quick money to help you pay some other expenses and payroll. So in this case, she's a sole proprietor. Like my example exactly said, she's one person on payroll. And so she got $1,000. So remember, that person let them know SBA is still going to get back to her now and try to tell her what kind of loan she could get. It'd be a very low interest loan over a long term. So that $1,000 is not also free along with the PPP. So she should watch and check out my forgivable amount part of this presentation. So you can't get both. So let's say her PPP was $15,000. She can get, approximately 73% of that forgiven. But that $1,000 is now a loan that she has to pay back. She can't get both free. So make sure you know what is not for free and keep that money separate unless you definitely want the loan. You got it?
Yep. And there was a follow-up question that she had on the PPP. And this is actually a great question because I know a lot of people that Anna and I know are in the same situation. If you have no employees, you're an independent contractor, you're getting PPP. How do you prove the money in order so it's forgiven?
Well, the moment you get the money, right, and it's in your account, if you're a sole proprietor, that's part of your net income, your draw. So that you're done basically getting it forgiven. So you don't have any payroll, right? Eventually, if you did have W-2s or payroll, you'd have to show that. But for a sole proprietor only, getting a number, let's say that's 17,708 in my example, well, that simply goes into an account, and once you draw that money out, the portion's forgivable. So the main thing is going to be, do we have that much net income in 2020? I believe is going to be the answer. Right? So if you didn't make 17,708 net, which remember you had made 85,000. So I think this simple example from what I've read, that percentage of it should be forgiven once you get it.
Okay.
And you're going to have to show, I think the proof will be that your 2020 net income did exceed that, right? Right. So let's say you made 17,709 in 2020. If I've taken the 17,708, my net income is thought of as payroll costs for this purpose, right? So that
Mhm.
17,708 going out to you at this moment when you got it, and you've made 17,709, then you fulfill the requirement of the portion that's forgivable.
Now, if say I come up with a awesome idea, I have great growth by the end of the year after this is done. If I make more than 25%, does that mean I got to pay back that?
No, not at all. No. The more
Okay.
money that you just want to make sure you make enough money, right? So in my example, if I make more than 17,709 net, right, and I had made 85,000, so I think it's going to be very hard to not meet the requirement, right? If the 17,708, if I do a calculation here, so in this case 17,708, so that's 20% of my net, so
Mhm.
21%. So in our example, if you're a sole proprietor, if you make 21% or more of your 2019 net schedule C, that would mean to me that it's fully forgivable the moment you get it. Well, forgivable to that extent that I mentioned earlier, right?
Awesome. Let's see. We have
And I
one
have,
more. Oh, you have one, Anna? You want to
yeah,
go next? And
yeah,
then
yeah.
I have one too.
I think we kind of covered that, but if the realtor has impact due to COVID and business slowdown on business, I was still eligible. So, I think regardless, you should apply for PPP, right? Even if you have a slowdown, if you're not completely not working.
Well, especially that's what it's for. The idea of this with this 8-week period and all of this, it's meant to like, especially people that say I have current closings or current income. I know, but the idea of this is that we're having a 2.5 month period of quarantine. That means that after that, we're going to have a 2.5 month slowdown of receipts. So especially that's what the money's for. It's for you to get you past the patch when now you're going to have a slowdown in receipts because of the slowdown in business due to quarantine. So you're exactly the perfect person to apply for this stuff.
Perfect.
And then
Do you have another one?
we had one. So also, if PPP is based on 2019 and you have half as many employees as before, but didn't lay anyone off, can you raise their pay to use the whole amount? If not, is there another way to use it?
Well, if are you an owner? So what is their situation? Are they an S corp owner? Or are they an LLC?
That I'm not sure. It
Okay.
may be hard to get because we're on a
So
little
they
bit
want,
of
right. So to me, I usually use the 75% rule is what they're giving us. So I think of that as 75% of headcount and payroll, right? So they didn't say it necessarily, but that's what if I have 100 people that were on payroll before the quarantine, I want to have 75 people on, not necessarily the same people, 75 people. So I'm paying 75% of the payroll. Of course, if you give people raises that are a little unreasonable, that might not look good. So again, it's meant to be forgiven for payroll you pay.
and he has a LLC, he said.
Okay, right. So if you're a sole member LLC, make sure you give yourself your draw, right? So make sure out of the PPP, the owner sometimes has the largest amount because they're net schedule C, right? That's my example. So make sure that person, I hope they're listening, take that net schedule C amount out of the bank account right away, because that goes towards that 75%. Okay. And then fill in the net difference of that 75% number less your net schedule C to try to hopefully come up with the gross amount you need to be forgiven.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. A lot of good information. Thank you so much for that. Jay, do you have another question?
One more. Just to recap, anyone who received PPP cannot apply for the unemployment, right? Or
Well, you can't receive unemployment. So what I usually say is depending on your PPP. So let's say here, so this is a good rule of thumb. Let's say that you're going to get $600 times 13 weeks of unemployment, right? That's sort of like the max number anyone's going to get, right? Even so, that's $7,800. So if you calculate your PPP and it's more than that, then you most likely should ignore the unemployment, right? Because you can only take, right? That's $7,800, right? Right. So if your PPP is 13,000, and we know that 73% of that's going to be forgiven, then it's more. So that's the rule of thumb. If your PPP is low, Some people have a small Schedule C last year. There's PPPs of $4,000 or $5,000. Well, the unemployment might be better. So in those cases, unless you dramatically exceed that unemployment potential, which is 7,800, and I don't know if that's going to come anyway, but if you know you're well above that, and you know you're going to get, if you do get the PPP and you're sure you have it, then you can ignore the unemployment. Okay, so that's a good rule of thumb. It's based on the amount of PPP and your, like I said, $7,800 is your maximum unemployment possibly, right? And so I can take the greater of the two, and so we're going to go with the PPP.
Okay, good.
I think that's all the questions that I had from the chat. And I think Anna, you asked yours, or you have everything?
Yes, no, I have everything that was asked in place, so.
All right, I have one more thing. Hold on one second, if you don't mind.
Free money for all of us?
There you go. It's the bonus. You waited till the end. Here, so I'm gonna share my screen one more minute, okay? And this is for everyone who does their own income taxes, which of course we know is a terrible mistake. Here we go. Right?
Yes.
I'm not going to turbo cardiologist, so just a little fun. And I appreciate everyone listening. Hope you got something out of it. Please, again, for your own good, subscribe to my blog. I'm actually putting out a podcast right after this, all about that forgivable portion, going a little more detailed, the forgivable portion of the PPP for sole proprietors, okay?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time again. This was great. I think a lot of good information. And everybody, if you have any additional questions, reach out to Chris, reach out to me and Anna. And we'll be back soon with somebody else and some more info for you guys to help you through this. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.